The next year, something was pissed, it broke it all down. It was just scattered about. It just didn't fall down. It was scattered. And you go to the boundary where they have this monument where the Pat Hollow plane crash is. 30 soldiers and like 37 people got killed in like 1951 in the winter. There's a monument there, and 10 feet from that monument is a structure or logs piled up, and it's all Bigfoot. I noticed before, other years, they've made a fence by knocking down a tree. It isn't prominent, but it's still a fence, and that fence has been gone. But every time I go up there, they're still leaning trees against each other. I don't know what that means yet, but they do make fences, to herd people out or to herd deer in areas.
I've seen a lot of that, definitely.
Up there, they bring down trees, roots and all, and just bring them into the campgrounds. I mean, it isn't like some guys getting them and using them for firewood. These are trees, roots and all, been drugged there and just sat there. See that all the time. No human would be dragging these.
The area
and it's the same areas where we've heard Bigfoot, whatever.
The area where you said there's the boundary dispute, isn't that the place where the fellow who shall remain unnamed kind of came in and started claiming all these discoveries? Isn't that pretty much you told me in the past?
Yeah, that's it. Right where, and he was probably a block away or 2 blocks away where I had the one chase after me. Or, I walked in on one that was laying there. Sleep.
I think you said you contacted him, ready to provide him with some, information out of courtesy, and he just ignored you. And we won't, say who he is, but people can guess maybe if they want. I don't know.
Well, when they first come out years ago, I seen he had a story for Beaver Creek, and he found one track. So I went, their site and wrote them a thing. It says, hey, we do the same areas. I've got a lot of years of experience, and we can share back and forth, this get together or whatever. Not a word. After finding Bigfoot was up here, I got a hold of about 4 or 5 guys that are at the time the top of the Utah Bigfooters, and they said, yeah, they tried to get a hold of them too, and nothing.
So I've heard he can be kind of like that. And I'll just mention briefly. Well, maybe I shouldn't. I guess I shouldn't mention because I don't know if I have permission to. Anyway, yeah, I agree.
Bigfoot evidence and everything you want to know about them. You go to SIR, Sasquatch Investigation of the Rockies. To me, it was the best site I've seen so far. They break it down in reports. They're over in Colorado. They tell characteristics of, like they said, the one says, yeah, they like to lay down next to the trail or sleep next to the trail, like the one I walked up on. I tried to become a member of them, whatever, but just things didn't work out right. But the Brian Johnson, probably says the wrong first name, but it was a Johnson. I met him and was talking to him before. He was saying they got a group of, they go out and camp. They put food out for them, and the Bigfoot are friendly. There's a group of 11 of them that come into this one campsite.
Probably the food.
They interact, but they don't, touch or they don't talk or whatever. One night he just got out of his sleeping bag, and there was one of them outside his tent. So he gets out in there and sits down like an Indian in front of it, and it sits down in front of him, and they just stared at each other for 20 minutes. And he says that's the neatest thing he's ever done in his life, I've had friends that went over there with him, and they couldn't believe, they would say, yeah, this is no bull. This is true. When they wanted me to speak at the Comic-Con or the same thing, it's just different name. They wanted the local people, and I just didn't want to give them Meldrum. So they said, who should we call? And I told those guys, and yeah, okay. So I got them. They were going to come over and all this stuff. And at the last minute, they backed out. And so I didn't want to do this all by myself. I've never done it before. I haven't written anything, so I backed out.
It's kind of like I invited you to a gathering, and it ended up, we had it this past Friday, and not to criticize anybody, but I kind of was just one of the main speakers, but the way I originally envisioned it was I might speak at, a little, do something at the end, and I was curious to hear what everybody else was planning for 2022. I guess nobody's planning anything, and they just expected to show up and eat pizza and listen. So anyway, I don't know how to. I know. Next time I'm going to have people who are committed to get a list of people, and anyway, so you didn't miss out on as much as anyway. Well,
I understand. Like I say, it's hard to get positive and intelligent, learned, that's about Bigfoot. Everybody else is, my dad saw one, or do you really believe they exist? We're way beyond that. I've thought of ways to get a projector, take it up in the mountains. I know a perfect spot for it, and I know there's Bigfoot up there, put out a video or something, show pictures of Patty, whatever, the 167 walking across, and then have a food station where you can drop off food for them. They'll know where it's at, and then have a picture of it. And then, like, if you have an apple, cut it up, put it there, and then the next one would be a bowl, and they could use the bowl, and the next thing is the bag of apples, and the bag of apples in some kind of a carrier. But this show them on the hillside, and this is good, this is whatever, and communicate. Put your picture up there so they know who you are. Do a certain sound so they realize who you are. If you see them again or hear them again, you could do that sound and they can recognize you. I mean, someone asked, what would you do if you walked up on a Bigfoot and staring at you that close? I would bow down and submissive, and then I would point to me and make a particular sound, and then try to talk, be friends with them, calm them down before they run off or whatever. And then
to communicate with them so there's better understanding.
They won't be so scared to show themselves in front of me. That's the way I look at it. I was going to say, there's a guy who I just seen on the internet earlier this week, where they deal with the Bigfoot. He mind speaks to him.
Oh, yeah. Kind of like,
and I believe that because this guy that is in Utah, this Corless is his name. I think he does it too. Mind speaks to him. I wished I could, but where they think about, like, you'd look at me and look at you, and you could almost understand what I'm saying just by what I'm thinking by looking at each other and something like that. They probably do a really good job. I mean, Bigfoot are a lot different from us. They see infrared. That's the reason we don't see them on these cameras. Infrared's like a flashlight sticking out there. Hell, who couldn't avoid those?
Yeah,
what we need to do if we want pictures of them is the old days, we didn't have infrared. They had trips or whatever. Everybody thinks, they could hear the electronics. I don't think they could do that, but they can, like I say, see the infrared. Someone asked me, if we put a camera out, whatever, where would I do it? And I told them where. And about a month later, the mother of the guy says, come here, I want to show you something. It was in the store, and she showed me her phone and this picture, and it looked like an elbow of one walking past the camera. And it had black, dark hair like a collie, and then orange wads of hair hanging down off it like a collie. But I couldn't tell you if it was the back of one or the elbow of one. And she took off after that. I have never seen the picture since. But yeah, I told them where, and like I said, if I was taking a picture or trying to, I would put a fishing lure up in the tree as they come around the corner. As they come around the corner, they'll see the fishing lure. They won't see the camera. Hopefully, you can get a picture of them.
So have that in front.
I mean, if we can come up with a trip system, we'll probably get better pictures or more pictures instead of the blur or even, I don't know why something took this camera down.
Yeah, it seems like you're saying the best I've seen. There are some interesting ones where it looks like there's part of an arm or something that doesn't quite look like a bear, and it's hairy, but that's about it. You never see right in front of the distance or anything like that.
You see a hand or fingers or a blur, something looking up close at it, but you can't get a good picture. But Bigfoot, they do speak. Here's a story of the guy who figured it out that they have speech. Was Nelson. I was going to say Kevin Nelson. That's his cousin. I was at a conference, and he was telling how he learned how they speak. He was a Navy, what do you call it?
SEAL?
No. They listen to the sounds and everything. Linguist. They hear the Russians and the Chinese and whatnot. He was trained to hear languages and see what they're saying and all that. One day, his son says he wanted to do a science project, and he goes, well, what do you want to do? He says, well, let's try one on Bigfoot. So they went to Bigfoot site, and he says, there's sounds. Let's see what they sound like. And he hears that, and he goes, that's a language. That is a language. You've heard the Sierra sounds, what they learn. Well, he got his equipment out and slowed it down. And you could hear distinct words when he slowed it down. It was like German almost. They distinctly say words, but they do it so fast in real time that you can't understand it. But like I say, since they have a common language, like I say, they could pass it on, et cetera, et cetera. But what I'm saying, and here's the funny part of the guy, and I'm talking to him or listening to him talk to somebody else, and he goes, yeah, I'm from Utah. And I go, what part? And he goes, Morgan. I go, really? He goes, yeah. I says, what part of Morgan? It turns out he would have been in the same scout troop as me or mutual class. He moved out 2 months before I moved in. And the funny thing is, it was Scott Nelson, I think. His cousins, I know them better than he does. It's just so funny how serendipity we meet each other, 40 years down the road.
So you're already a friend of the family automatically, kind of. I mean, you knew.
Yeah. And he lives in Kansas City or something like that. So, it's just funny how we both meet up and doing the same thing. Coincidence, I guess. I don't know.
Did his interest in Bigfoot, Sasquatch begin in Morgan? Or
what I'm contemplating going up to Utah State to the archaeology department and anthropology department and try to find out what people or what there is on how any other tribes of people have done wood figures or what the Indians did, what signs and leave them from information. I'd be curious to find out, what they have. And I'd like to get somebody working on a master's or undergrad and I could show them stuff that blow their mind away that there is something out there right now as we speak, a whole thing of people that nobody knows about or that's hiding underneath the veil we can't find. Either archaeologists would maybe show you could figure out just by tearing apart a Bigfoot camp, but anthropologists would be the best one to get, or get one that does both. But yeah, that's what I think needs to be investigated. And it's just like we were cavemen. That's about where they're at right now.
Yeah, someone who has a specialty in ancient civilization or cultures that are primitive, and we already have plenty of bipedal scientist. Dr. Meldrum is good at that, but it'd be interesting to know a little bit more beyond just the ape thing. What's the civilization anyway?
Yeah. Example, here's how easy it is for them to communicate without them being there. SIR, this guy showed a picture of a stump with 5 rocks on there. Well, 3 of the rocks are in one spot. One was over here and another was there. The next day, they were moved. There was like 4 in one spot and 1 on the other. The next day, there was a different, they were scattered about a little bit more in groups of 1 and 2. That makes sense. This is their territory, and this is where I'm going to be, you're going to be, and this is so-and-so's going to be. I mean, that's how easy it is to communicate.
So they're kind of plotting where they're letting you know, hey, I'm going to be over here. Here's the map and type of thing.
Yeah. And they have their own territories and they don't need as big as area as everybody thinks they do, or the so-called professional
expert gatekeepers of knowledge.
Meldrum said they need 200 square miles per Bigfoot.
Seems a little much.
I go, are you shitting me? How many miles did the Indians have?
They almost not have families if you're... Does he think they're, I don't know, nomadic? I don't know. I guess he's thinking about berries or eating, or I'm not sure what he's thinking.
Let me explain my theory why there were so many up here in Logan area.
Okay. Yeah, I think you remember you told me that.
Yeah. You got mountains in the whole West. I mean, you got mountains in New Mexico. You got the Colorado mountains. You got Arizona mountains and all the Utah mountains. They're all connected and they just keep going north and north and north and north. And the Wasatch Mountains is the farthest range of them. And I'm sure, like I said, they have histories, or they probably do vocal history, but if they can communicate, they know where other areas are. If you follow the Wasatches north of here about 40 miles, you hit Soda Springs. That's the tip of the Wasatch Range. What's at the tip of the range? It's surrounded by a reservoir. It's all water. They probably do all this big hiking going up to here, and they get there and they go, shit, now what do we do? So they just turn around and make a first available canyon their home, first territory. And I think they're learning around here and Colorado to coexist with each other. And that's why they have boundary markers so they can get along. Over in the Northwest, they don't need boundary markers, but they don't use them. Who's going to spot them as well in all that straight timber? But the ones in Colorado and Utah seem to have the most. Over there in Colorado, I've seen videos, I think Rio or whatever, showed a group of about 20 or 30 structures in a couple acre area. That's a village.
Visited Colorado one time with Colorado Bigfoot, I believe. Yeah, I like what you're saying, that all the mountain chains, if you look on a map, you can see the green swaths that are surrounded by desert, and they all kind of converge and go upwards, and it's kind of like their version of I-15, but it's really wide, and then it pinches off in certain points where, they kind of just have to figure out where they're going to go from there.
But I'm sure that's one of the reasons why there's so many of them up here. And, if you have a fire or a big area that burn out, they'll move. They got to go somewhere. We haven't had fires up here except these controlled burns. I've heard stories that everybody didn't know what they were, or they described something. One of the guys that were our neighbors in the old days says, yeah, I was up there hunting and I come across this tree. It had 3 piles of stuff on there, like food, and I've never seen anything like that. And he says, I went and I just kind of dabbed it and tasted it. He goes, that was the best stuff I ever ate, and I don't know what it was, but he'd walked in on it where a Bigfoot had its food, that type of stuff. Oh, we had mountain lions follow us all the way down. We didn't see them, but we could hear them. They're always been there, but I was going to point out is that Bigfoot have math. I have these pictures of different boundary markers, and it's 1 from the left and 2 from the right, usually leaning against a tree, but they're all the same angle. I've compared the pictures and they seem to have the same, I don't know what degree, but 14-degree angle. They have to have math to do that every time. So, I think they're smarter than we'd think.
So they got some natural geometry skills or something to that effect.
Well, yeah, they don't have a paper to write it on, but yeah, they can sure show you. Everybody says, oh, there's supernatural, whatever, the light globes or whatever. I've never seen a light ball. I don't know if that has anything to do with them. We don't know what they are, what they're capable of. I just know they're flesh and blood.
Yeah, at least we know they're that, yeah. And they're not just, probably not just apes.
Yeah, well, then they say, they disappear.
Beings, that's, I guess, not impossible, but it seems more unlikely. Who knows, though?
Well, and then they say, they disappear right for you. I think they don't disappear. It's just that they're that good at hiding. They're being that stealthy, throws people off. They can't believe that something that big can just, hide or just out of view. But like I said, I haven't seen it, so I couldn't. Don't know if I ever see one, but I sure would love to.
Yeah, same here. I've yet to see them. I've heard of them and seen plenty of evidence, but no, I know people who have seen them. So,
the one thing we need to do, if we're all the serious Bigfooters, the knowledgeable ones, or whatever, get everybody together in the state. That's what I liked about Utah Sasquatch. We still do. It's kind of breaking up, or you don't see it much. But get them all at a conference and try to go through the state with a map and say, okay, I know where there's a bunch here. There's a bunch here. We've seen them over here, a bunch here. So we get an idea of a population and then be able to track them. But the thing is, this information would not be let out to the public or especially the government, because the government would probably use it to take them out. It would be fun to do that and learn a lot more that way, how the population is. I sat down one day with the area of how much area the Bigfoot use, what I've seen. I'm not saying every area is like that, but I just started going down because I know a lot of territory in my head, clear to Park City, and I guesstimated up to 100 Bigfoot in that area where the groups are. From north of Idaho border straight down through American Fork, that group down there, I would assume. I don't know anything about Uintas, but I can show you a lot of pictures of stuff from Uintas. I could just estimate there's 100 of them around through here.
That wouldn't surprise me.
I think the ones, could be just prejudiced, but the ones in Colorado and here are the ones that build all the structures. They probably are a smarter tribe. And then they got the other ones, the dog face ones. Yeah. They're still Bigfoot. I just think they're different breed, different style or breed or whatever, different tribes.
Could be. I know they have those in Louisiana and up, seems like around Michigan, Wisconsin. And there's probably other areas too, but those are more for those.
Well, we're getting more reports of them around here or seeing them, whatever. I think they're moving into our areas.
That's possible.
Like the guy up in Ogden Valley that had some regular, normal Bigfoot, Utah Bigfoot. they knew they were there. They lived with them, or you know what I mean. They lived without having any problems with them. And then they heard two of them getting in a fight or something like that, and they seen one, and it was a dog face one, whatever. And they feel like that they herded the other ones out, and they are more vicious. Are not as friendly as the other ones.
A lot more vicious.
But that's
so just, they actually came across a battle between the two creatures.
Yeah. Well, they heard them over in the trees, according to something like that. You hear them fighting, whatever. I'd like to see that, but I wouldn't want to be there.
Yeah. I remember what I was going to say. There's a fellow who has collected quite a bit from all the different sources on the internet, and there's quite a bit on there of sightings, and he's plotted them all on Google Earth. His inventory. I probably should get you in contact with him. He actually kind of pulled up his map. That's the one good thing for the gathering we had. He was the other guy who was well prepared. Yeah, I wish you saw that. But he has things all over. He has it color coded where if it was a winter sighting, spring, or then you can click on it and then it shows a little more information, kind of when it happened and whether it was just structures. Yeah. He has some symbols or just structures. So yeah, he's trying to do exactly what you're talking about. And I'm going to send you a link. I think I already did actually to a group on Facebook. But anyway, that's kind of a side note that he runs, so just be aware of that if you see an invite or something.
Yeah, I will. I've been this for so long, I'll take any information I can get. I'm still thirsting for it.
Yeah, I think we all like to compare notes, and it's good to hear people who've had
that's how we learn.
Experiences and exchange information.
I mean, that's how we learned. Back when I started, people would make fun of you. That's why I got my nickname Crazy Rex. Oh. That's why you have my email is Crazy Rex. But yeah, between them and the UFOs, I'm like the Forrest Gump of paranormal.
You ever been called Tyrannosaurus? I know I've been called that. Anyway.
Never been called that. T-Rex.
Yeah, it probably gets old anyway.
But yeah, besides Bigfoot, UFOs, I've seen them 8 times at least. Close up about 4 or 5 times. I mean, literally close. Ghosts. Seen ghosts, heard them, see stuff where I work. This place is haunted, which just doesn't bother me. Everything like that attracts to me like moths to a fire. I don't know.
So you're one of those people where, there's certain people that have a knack where they'll kind of, I don't know
if it's a knack, but yeah. I observe a lot of things, and you learn to observe, you can pick up a lot of things. People just walk blindly by stuff, and so I take it all in. All righty. Have a good one. Thanks.
You too. Bye.